Well, I think the characteristics of trade union art are probably a bit like this thing I'm doing here, which has to be done by lunchtime. It's got to be done really quick, on the cheap as usual, and it's big, it's bold, it's a piece of propaganda to try and exhort people to a particular cause, and this is a thing for against the welfare cuts which are happening at the moment, and it's being done very quickly. I think banners, I look at them really as the battle standards of the class war. So they were full street marches, so people could see which of the craft unions were marching, and that tradition has come to New Zealand. They're not just decoration, they're reminders of a very serious struggle, which has been about the 8-hour day, sick pay, holiday pay, a decent healthcare system and a decent education system. And that's what workers have been struggling for. And it's often been a serious battle where people have got hurt. Frederick George Evans got killed for it. So there's bloodshed involved. And they've become, over time, I think, a form of celebration and objects of great pride to the people who march behind the banners. And there are always recurring themes that recur in the banners. There are often recurring images of clasped hands or bound sticks. So they're exhortations to strength through unity. Often it's just propaganda. I mean, posters, pamphlets, banners, and there's also a great tradition of songs, of course, and these aren't songs that are played on the radio, but they're sung by workers or at working class celebrations.
Don't be too polite, girls, don't be too polite. Show a little fight, girls, show a little fight. Don't be fearful of offending in case you get the sack. Just recognise your value and we won't look back. They say a man needs more to feed his children and his wife. Well, what are the needs of a woman who leads a down the working life? When the whistle blows for knock-off, it's not her time for fun. She goes home to start the job that's never paid and never done.
To get its ideas across quickly, workers' art often uses familiar symbols and slogans. Two artists who work in the fine arts area, Mary Louise Brown and Frank Stark, took the image of hands in struggle and in unity and used them in a group of 3 photographs exploring ideas about work. The Latin inscription at the top of each image says, "To work is to pray."
The first image has hands in clasped, obviously pushing together. I mean, that seems like a struggle, but it's also like working. It's like together, working against and
it's also a balance. I mean,
yes,
the hands,
it's even.
Neither hand is winning.
It's totally even. There's also in the second one, there's hands clasped, which they've dropped. I think that as you said, to a gentle struggle, it continues. It's a lot less seemingly forceful. It's not as forceful, but in fact, there we go again, it's together, it's even. It's like some kind of acceptance. And the final one is obviously about, the hand in prayer, the two hands joined in one prayer. So it's just it's almost like a narrative.
In a sense, the word manufacture in this work is almost like a pun, because its original meaning is literally handmade. But of course, these days we see manufacture as something entirely different, which is machine-made, really, anything but handmade. So, in a way, it's a little ironic to look at the use of the hands again, but also it refers to that process of how, in this case at least, how art can be made. I mean, no one seems to have any doubt that once it's hung on the gallery wall that it's art. Yet, in fact, involves a whole lot of processes which wouldn't be recognised as art practice by a lot of people. The lay people, say, would assume that art has to be made by an individual working with their hands on some material to produce one precious object. For instance, this work could be reproduced 1,000 times.
Yes.
And it'll be exactly the same work each time.
Images of working life, of organised labour, are usually images of men.
I've pre-trimmed and I packed till I can do it in my sleep. But I've had enough of running after
The masculine strength employed in manual work used to be seen as the most important kind of real labour. Although most of the exhibition reinforced those ideas, Warren Visco's sculpture, The Quarryman's Dream, shows both respect and amusement at the figure of the tough, strong Kiwi male worker.
I wanna be a butcher on the chain. Give me one short week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Come on, I don't wanna fight you, I just wanna work beside you.
The work that women do, on the other hand, is often hidden away in the home or in low-paid jobs, and the exhibition reflected this. The curators had to make a special effort to get pictures of domestic work, but there were plenty of historic drawings and photographs available showing women put on a pedestal as symbols of all the good and pure things in life which men work for, and other pictures which reminded us of the degrading images many women have had to put up with in the workplace. This two-sided painting is called Honour, Duty and Sacrifice, and one of the things artist Vivian Lynn is trying to do with it is to explain how women's labour came to be so undervalued, and the negative consequences which result if it is. She starts off repainting a work by the 19th century painter Ingres. The industrialists of that period who were moneyed wanted women to be objects to reflect their wealth, and the more they did nothing and looked as though they were just lounging about, the more it reflected their wealth. They were not allowed to work. You know, that whole thing comes from there. As a critique, what I wanted to do first of all was try and make that more apparent, more obvious, because what we do is we just absorb that in some way and we don't understand how it's affecting us, how it's actually, we collude with the image to be that thing. So what I did was took these figures out of it, this figure, that figure and this figure, and put them on the other side. I used a lot of the line in this side. I developed the line from the Ingres painting here, because he is a master at drawing. That's another reason why I chose him, for his beautiful composition and the drawing. So I wanted to make the statement, this honour, duty, sacrifice, which was my reality of looking at that image. The three figures that we talked about on the other side are placed in here in an image which is painted very meticulously, constructed much in the classical mode.
and so that the whole image has a feeling that's claustrophobic, something inside, people inside something, trapped in something, a bit like the women in the bathhouse on the other side. These two, in a sense, are trapped. They have been creative in their own entrapment by, it's a solution in a way to be ill. So if you're ill, you can't actually do anything. You can't make a choice to move and to change a situation. This is another way of colluding with it too. You can be passive. A woman can be passive, and then wonders why if she behaves that way for very long. She becomes like this. One thing leads to the other, and then this is another solution, perhaps. Right? It could be read that way. Women's labour. Obviously, this is about women's labour. Not being valued in this society.
That painting was begun in the late 1960s, and some things have changed for women workers since then.
Yes, I wanna be a butcher.
They're now much more active in the trade union movement, but theirs is often a double struggle, against inadequate working conditions, but also for the support of their male colleagues.
Short week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Come on, I don't wanna fight you, I just wanna work beside you. I've got kids of my own, I need the higher pay. But they said when
They're coming here tonight to celebrate the role of the women in the trade union movement. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't all of bread and roses, bread and roses. If it wasn't for us, the mafiosa feminista, there wouldn't be so many women involved in the trade union movement today.
I remember when it all began. We came into the trade union movement, we thought, a place for justice, a place for equality. Little did we know. Jobs for the boys.
Where a meeting it was called, and when the company boys came round, she always stood her ground. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union till the day I die. This union maid was wise to the tricks of the company spies. She couldn't be fooled by the company, still she'd always organize the guys. She'd always get her way when she asked for higher pay. She'd show her card to the National Guard, and this is what she'd say. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union.
Organised labour suggests trade unions, paid work and the 40-hour week. What's the place then of all those people who work but get paid very little or nothing, who are unemployed or who work for love or to help others? If to work is to pray, is prayer or meditation work? And is work really a struggle and a burden? Is working life always a battle? Then there's the whole tradition of collective labour in Māori life, where hundreds of people get fed and looked after at a hui. But nobody gets paid. Is it work or just fun?
What you see here, and maybe it is people having a good time, and I'm sure they are, because there's real value to what they're doing. I think it's recognition of the very fact that it is work. and that it's a kind of work that is really important, because if the hui is a very important one, then these people, because they are on the marae and this marae is about them, their iwi, those people may have had to take leave from work. And, you know, that deserves to be recognised as well. Work is not definitely a burden. It is very much not only a natural way of life, but the values of caring for people. When you care for somebody, that is definitely not a burden, because we are concentrating and focusing on the values of what they are doing, then this relationship between the photographer and the people is really important, and that relationship is going to come through. You're just part of the team and doing your little job as well.
Workers' art is many different things. Nowadays it can be film, video and television as well.
This is a film about the hammer and the anvil.
You could not have 7,900 out of 8,000 waterside workers loyal and solid and determined to fight today.
Today, employers have to respect the rights unions have won for working people. But the government's proposed employment contracts bill will lead to the scrapping of current awards. Even the basic conditions of working people will be up for grabs. But there's still time to change the bill. So get behind your union now, because your union is behind you.
But workers need to be aware that the same images and symbols they use to help persuade others can be used against them too.
If you belong to such a union, you may want to get out, but the law says you can't. Other unions are more militant, like the little union that closed factory after factory and put all the workers out of work. Or the one that went on strike because they